Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely beautiful 13-year journey. It's all about human connection, resilience, and the real nuts and bolts of what it actually means to build a chosen family. We're looking at a true story that takes all those abstract ideas of love and commitment and shows us exactly how they function in the real world. So if you've ever wondered how deep relational wounds actually heal or how total strangers can become lifelong family, you are definitely in the right place. Let's get into it.
Picture this. It's exactly 13 years ago at an orphanage in Medellin, Colombia. The author of our story walks into this lively, vibrant worship session. Everyone in the room is just highly engaged, singing, clapping, totally celebrating the moment. But there was one striking exception. One teacher, a woman named Melissa, was sitting entirely alone. She had this incredibly heavy, sorrowful expression that just didn't fit the energy of the room at all. The author noticed this disconnect, walked over, sat down next door, and simply asked what was wrong.
Section 1. Will you be my dad?
That one simple question opened the floodgates. Melissa was carrying two incredibly heavy burdens that day. First, there was this lifelong trauma, abandonment by her biological dad when she was just 4 years old. For years, she'd reach out, hoping for some sign he was proud of her, but she got nothing but complete silence. And then, there was the immediate trigger. A male employer had just rejected her, essentially telling her her work wasn't satisfactory and that she just wasn't enough. Her whole life felt defined by this agonizing, gaping wound. So the author sat with her. He listened, he hugged her, and they even shed some tears together. As a father of two daughters himself, her pain wasn't just some abstract concept to him. He really felt it. And then, out of nowhere, Melissa asks this wild, incredibly direct question, "Will you be my dad?" Faced with the raw, emotional weight of that moment, he just said yes. He admits he had absolutely no idea what that yes would actually demand of him, but it kicked off everything that followed.
Section 2. Expanding the family circle.
You see, saying yes to Melissa didn't just mean a commitment to one person. It meant saying yes to her entire world. Over the years, the relationship naturally evolved. It started with meeting Melissa, but quickly expanded to her husband, her two kids, Nicholas and Michelle, and her fiercely welcoming mother, Maria. At first, it was distant, but real. Phone calls, text messages, the occasional visit. But as life threw some major curveballs their way, like Maria's cancer diagnosis and some huge family milestones, that bond was truly forged in the fire.
But okay, before we get to the heavy stuff, we have to talk about how the author first met Melissa's husband, Richard. Talk about an imposing introduction. Richard pulls up on a police motorcycle, wearing his full uniform and visibly carrying a rifle. If you're stepping in to be a father figure to someone's wife, that is literally the most intimidating first impression you could possibly ask for. But thankfully, the tension dissolves pretty fast.
Because despite the rifle and the uniform, Richard made this conscious, incredibly welcoming choice. He accepted this unconventional new figure into their lives. He, his kids, and Melissa's mom, Maria, just opened their doors completely. It wasn't about legal paperwork or strict definitions. It was an active, daily choice to expand their family circle.
Section 3. Grief and shared loss.
Of course, building a family isn't just about joyful introductions. Things took a sharp turn when Melissa's mom, Maria, who had been so warm and welcoming, got diagnosed with cancer. The kids actually asked the author to pray with them, and they were all holding out hope for a healing. But as her condition got worse, Maria accepted her reality. Her final hope was so simple and so heartbreaking. She just wanted to live long enough to see Michelle's quinceañera and Nicholas's high school graduation.
Sadly, she didn't make it. Maria passed away before reaching those milestones. It was an absolutely crushing blow, but it forced the family, which now fully included the author, to grieve together. They didn't fracture or fall apart. They absorbed the loss as a unified front, just doing whatever they could to keep moving forward despite this massive, painful hole left in their lives.
Section 4. Forgiveness at the quinceañera. This shared grief brings us to a massive turning point where the past and the present literally collided. The author was at Michelle's quinceañera, not just as a guest, but honored as family, basically playing the role of a grandfather. But right in the middle of the dance, an uninvited guest shows up. It was Melissa's biological father. The very man whose silence had haunted her since she was 4 years old just walked into the room. He just stood there, watching like a hawk while the author danced and acted as the family's patriarch. The tension was thick, and you could practically read the confusion written all over his face. He was clearly wondering, who is this man? Who is this stranger stepping into the exact space I left empty?
Now, you'd think this would lead to a huge blow-up, right? But instead, the tension of that weekend created this unprecedented opening. 3 huge things happened. First, they finally had an honest, no-holds-barred conversation about his years of absence and the damage it caused. Second, he actually asked for forgiveness. And third, amazingly, Melissa gave it. A real relationship started where there had only been silence, and that massive core wound defining Melissa's life finally started to close.
Section 5. Building Forward with Nicholas.
With the family experiencing all this healing, a new chapter started with Melissa's son, Nicholas. The kid had actually been teaching himself English, so the author asked him to come along on a trip to Cartagena to translate. And this trip wasn't about deep, formal sit-downs. It was riding horses, fishing offshore, and tearing up the beach on ATVs. It was just totally unstructured, quality time. And that lack of pressure is exactly what transformed their bond. Nicholas started sticking close after that, speaking English with tons of confidence.
Because they built that trust just goofing around, Nicholas felt safe enough to open up about the heavy stuff. They started having some intensely hard conversations. Nicholas talked about his deep grief over losing his grandmother, the ongoing family tension, and just the general instability of life. The author really stepped into that fatherly role here, explaining what he could about grief and teaching Nicholas how to hold on to hope when everything settles down and all you have left is the relationship itself.
Section 6. The Economy of Grace.
And that brings us to the real conceptual heart of our explainer today. Let's distill the core philosophy from these 13 years of shared love and loss. Think about this. Love does not operate on debt. It does not keep accounts. The author realized that the deep love he got from this family was something he completely did not earn. True love isn't a bank ledger. It's not keeping score of who owes who what. It just absorbs the loss, stays fiercely present, and focuses entirely on building forward.
So what did this family actually teach him? Basically 3 ultimate takeaways about grace. Number 1, love is fundamentally greater than fear. Number 2, grace does not collect what is owed. Even when an apology is totally justified, grace just bypasses the collection agency. And number 3, it gives a clean beginning. It ensures your future is absolutely not defined by the pain or the abandonment of your past.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. Look closely at your own relationships today. Where are you keeping score? And honestly, who in your life might desperately need you to offer them a clean beginning today? Or, hey, maybe you need to finally accept one yourself. Keep that question in mind as you go about your week. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible story. Catch you next time.